everybody, Tony D with another Screenwriter Fix, and this time we're going to talk about turning TV shows into movies, and movies into TV shows, and ones that I think that would be appropriate to do that. First up, TV show into a movie, that would be, I think, it would be a cool movie to do Law and Order SVU with the Chris Maloney character. What was his name? Statler? Can't think of his name. And that crew of characters, Special Victims Unit, going up against some sort of like serial killer, rapist movie thing. But like it would be 2 hours. Would be like one of these like big movies, big spectacular movies where you'd see characters that you've seen in like dozens and dozens of episodes. But now they're in like a big budget movie where all kinds of crazy stuff happens, like Silence of the Lambs level of stuff. I think that would be cool. I think people would dig it. And, there is rumors right now that they may be spinning off Christopher Maloney in his own show, probably cop show, in the SVU Law and Order world. Because, every actor in New York, by law, must appear in a Law and Order episode somewhere as either a dead body or a murderer or a witness. So the next show I think would make a great movie, and I've said this for a long time, and it's very obscure. You've probably never heard of it. But there was a Conan and Barbarian cartoon many years ago that I think it only went one season, and it was called Conan the Barbarian. Now, the last appearance of Thundar, some of the Adult Swim guys brought him back when they brought back a bunch of the Hanna-Barbera guys in like Harvey Birdman, attorney at law. But other than that, he hasn't been around prior to that for literally decades. But the premise of the show, it was Conan the Barbarian, but in the post-apocalyptic future, where there was science, but there was also sorcery. So it was Conan, like a Conan type guy named Thundar the Barbarian, and then his sidekick was this big mutant guy who was they were called Mox. Ukla the Mock was his name, and then the third in the group was Ariel, who was like this beautiful sorceress. But they never quite explained how sorcery comes back or the implication. It's kind of like mutant powers. It was very much like the RPG Gamma World, if you ever played that back in the day. But I think those characters would be a great sort of crazy Mad Max world that you could really explore. And one of the great things about the cartoon is they were always, revealing things from the past, like the Statue of Liberty, or there was an episode with Fort Knox. It turns out the hill that this village is on is actually on a giant pile of gold from Fort Knox. And so there are all these ruins to explore, which is fun because it connects it into the present day. And, it's like seeing this bizarre future. And as you all know, I love the dystopian stuff almost as much as I love the gangster stuff. So I think it would be a lot of fun, be a good movie, be interesting casting choices. And, it's just basically Conan with different weapons. Now, looking at some of the movies that would make really cool TV shows, speaking of dystopian futures, is one I think is long overdue is Mad Max. I think Mad Max would make a really good TV show. I think there's a lot to explore in that dystopian world. I think the movies have kind of run their course. I did think Fury Road was really good. And they're probably making a sequel to it. But, the movies are kind of all the same. They can't really get into smaller stories with Mad Max now because they've kind of done these big stories. And Fury Road, it was a reboot, so you can kind of get away with sort of repeating kind of the same thing, although it was a little different. They changed it up a little bit, and then hammering in this female character for whatever reason, for woke points, I guess. But I think it would be great to do a series especially starting with early Mad Max, seeing the crumbling of civilization. Because if you watch the original Mad Max movie with Mel Gibson, that's what you see. You see the breakdown of civilization. It's like the last 4 or 5 cops, trying to hold on to law and order, and then finally it all just breaks down. And that's the fun part of that movie. And then the sequel is just like, oh, now it gets crazier. So I think you could do a whole season of the civilization breaking down, and then season 2 could be the big climax where you just go into Road Warrior level stuff, and then eventually, I think Fury Road really was more of a sequel to the later Mad Max stuff, when like everything was basically gone except for a few cars. But I like the whole ruined city thing. I think you could do smaller stories with Mad Max sort of wandering the wastelands. One of the great things about Road Warrior was he had a dog, and if you haven't seen that movie, I won't tell you what happens, but I think there's a lot to explore in that world, and that would be a really interesting TV show. Be action packed. They couldn't make it woke. I hope if they made it, they wouldn't make it woke. But these days, Hollywood. Hopefully, in a few months, one of the side benefits of the current crisis might be wokeness will be dead. Next up, the TV series that absolutely has to happen, proven that it would be a pretty big hit, is Batman. Batman TV series absolutely must happen. I think we may finally actually get it from Warner Brothers after this big crisis, because they may finally realize, hey, movies are done. Why are we sitting on all these not Batman shows? Let's make an actual Batman show. People would completely lose their minds to watch a Batman show. And when I mean a Batman show, I don't mean the campy Adam West show, which I love, but an actual Batman show where Batman solves mysteries and fights criminals. And I wouldn't want it too stylized. I think the Tim Burton stuff was too much, and I think that I think it needs to be pulled back from that. I liked the animated series, even though it drew from a lot of that. But, and I think the animated series was brilliant. But for a TV show, a Batman TV show, I would like to see a Batman, first off, that starts off, Batman already exists. He's been around for years. Don't give me the origin. Please. We know the origin of Batman. It's been done a million times. What we want is Batman every week fighting a new villain in the Rogues Gallery, and we want to see him, fill up Arkham Asylum and then fight new guys that you make up for the show, and solve mysteries. Because really, for a long time, he was the world's greatest detective. That's the way he was billed in the 70s. The world's greatest detective. Oh, and he also is like Bruce Lee. He fights with martial arts. These days, it seems like the fighting is all the emphasis. I would like to see more of the emphasis on the detective aspect, and that really he is a guy who's solving these crimes that either nobody can solve or nobody wants to solve because the system's so corrupt. And I think that would be a great show, as long as you didn't try to push the wokeness or, push it too far in terms of centering it around Batman. Like, it should be... You should have a size and scope of Gotham City like New York. It should be so big, like, there's like a million things happening. Batman's just trying to stop a few major crimes. Like, he can't be everywhere at once. He's just trying to tamp down the big guys. He's not catching purse snatchers. He's catching the guys who are really doing some damage. And because the system's so corrupt, it's like the thing with Commissioner Gordon. Like, Gordon's like one of the few good guys on the force. Even the force is very corrupt, and you kind of got to work that corrupt system. Kind of like on The Wire, if you've ever seen The Wire. The Wire, it was like the system. Wasn't so much people were corrupt. It was, although they were, but it was like the system itself worked against people who actually wanted to do something, and that's what I would like to see in a Batman series. I think it would be a huge hit, and not like a CW one. Understand, like, can't. You got to spend real money on this. CW and Warner Brothers. You can't cheap out on the Batman show. It's got to be like top of the line Gotham level show. I don't know what's holding it up. I think. I honestly don't know what's holding it up. Honestly don't know why everything else around Batman has become a TV show except him. The only thing I can think of is they just don't want to taint him for the movies, and they feel that they need to save him for the movies. I think they could do both. I mean, I'd be perfectly happy with a TV series that runs its course in a couple of seasons and then watch the same guy be up on the screen. I would totally go see that. Batman's that popular. I think if you did it right, you didn't F it up. You F it up, you F it up. But if you did it right, and you got a really good lead, a guy who would be, Tom Hardy comes to mind. He's such a good actor. He's, about the age for it. Who else? There's so many guys you could get. Who did they get? They had Ben Affleck. I didn't think Ben Affleck was a great choice. He's probably a better Bruce Wayne, much like Michael Keaton, probably a better Bruce Wayne than he was a Batman. Because he's, got the Bruce Wayne playboy look down. I don't know if I believe him as, the guy kicking butt and taking names. Gerard Butler probably would have been a good Batman. He's probably getting a little too old for it, but, he seems to do a lot of action roles. Who else was I just talking about? I was just talking about a guy who's good for action roles. Oh, who'd be, and this is a weird choice, I know, but he's got the physique for it. Chris Evans. I know. He's not dark, but he could be for the role if he wanted to do it. Now, I kind of think he wouldn't want to do the role after doing Captain America, but he really does have the physique for it. I mean, there's very few guys, that are built to do Batman. I think he would do well. There's probably a few other guys I'm not thinking of. I mean, I thought Christian Bale was a really good one. Obviously, he's probably not going to do a TV show at this stage of his career, although he'd be great doing it. You'd probably need a younger guy, muscular guy. I don't know if the guy who played Bruce Wayne in the Gotham TV series would be right. I mean, that would be a cool kind of tie-in if he was up for it, and if he continued doing his push-ups, and he looks the part and continues to get big and buff and has lots of gravitas. Maybe, but you definitely need a guy who's just like built and could do a ton of martial arts. Be great if they could find a martial artist like the level of Jackie Chan, but probably a better actor. No offense to Jackie Chan, I love him, but his range is only so limited. I still want to see that movie where Jackie Chan is like the serious guy, but I heard it wasn't that great. I gotta find it on Netflix or whatever. But anyhow, that's it from a Screenwriter's Fix. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time.